So stayed there, woke up super early at like 5 a.m. to drive all the way to Denver. I
Wow.
remember getting ready in a gas station, like at a Love's,
Hmm.
to be there.
Okay, everybody, we're back with another super special guest. Today we're joined by professional wrestler Gypsy Mac. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just get right into it. If you just want to tell us like where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing and everything like that.
I am from New Mexico, actually, a little town in New Mexico called Las Vegas. And I currently live in Las Vegas, Nevada. I moved out here about 8 months ago. Sorry, my cat, he was on the desk and then decided he wanted to jump on the AC and just didn't make it. So
Oh,
sorry about that.
okay.
But like I was saying, I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada to take pro wrestling a little bit more seriously because I was doing it out in Albuquerque, but there's not a scene in New Mexico. So I figured why not just take the leap and go to the West Coast where there's a lot more action happening.
I got you. What sparked that initial interest for you in pro wrestling?
I've liked it ever since I was a little kid. I grew up watching it with my brothers, my dad, my grandma was a big fan of it. So I always like really liked doing it, but I thought you had to be kind of like a model or like an athlete or some like kind of big superstar with like a platform already to do it. So I never thought it was like an attainable goal. And then I met my first trainer, Gino, out in Albuquerque. And I was like, oh, there's indie wrestling. That's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
So I asked him where I can go for training because I was about to move to Denver, Colorado. That was probably like the closest school to me. And
Mm,
he said, nah, like just stick around here. He's like, I don't want you to leave your family and everything. So I'll start a school. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while. So let's give it a try.
mm.
And yeah, he started a school. He's 16 years in the business. 4 years later, he's put out a lot of students from New Mexico. So it's kind of cool to see where OTR has gone since I was the first student.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just who were some of those like early inspirations for you, whether it was like, WWE, people in the ring or outside the ring?
For me, one of my biggest inspirations was Jeff and Matt Hardy. I loved the Hardy Boys. They were like my first crush, which is kind of funny. I always was super infatuated with them, especially their look, because they were super like edgy and I was into rock music. So it was someone I can relate to. I also really loved Trish Stratus growing up too. I always thought she was super cool and Lita. So those were some big inspirations for me. But once I started getting more into wrestling and diving like deeper into it and seeing all these other aspects, not just WWE, I started really getting into Joshi wrestling too.
Mm, right. And then just what were like when you start training, what are some of those like early challenges for you? Was there anything that kind of like surprised you? Anything like that?
I didn't realize how tough it was going to be. And
Hmm.
it was definitely a learning curve having to like get over the like impact of like taking a bump and getting hit. And I was the only girl in my training class and the guys didn't hold back. They hit me like they would hit anyone else, which I'm very grateful for, that they didn't treat me any differently. And then I actually tore my ACL and my meniscus after my first match. It wasn't in wrestling though, but I did end up injuring myself and that put me on the shelf for a while.
Oh my goodness. What happened there?
So I went to a concert
Oh, okay.
and
Enough
I
said.
like to mosh, you know? So I
Mm,
was like, I was in the pit and some guy, I went to go step forward and some guy came from my side. So my knee just went two different ways at the same time.
oh my gosh. Was that not to
Yeah.
get, too far ahead of us, but was that the same leg that you just injured or?
No, thank God. Well, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing because now I have
Yeah,
two injured legs, but I think it would be worse if it was the same one.
right. Yeah. Um, no, yeah, that's crazy that happened to you kind of twice. But yeah, and then just from the point that you start training, like how long was it till you make your debut? And then just take us through like your debut match, what that was like for you.
For me, it took about a year from the time I started training to the time I had my first match.
Mm,
My first match was in Phoenix, Arizona, against a girl from Florida named Amber Nova.
mm,
She was super sweet. I was so nervous because I didn't even know I was having my first match. I was a valet at the time. And so
Oh,
I
wow.
go and like, you go backstage and look at what you're doing. And I go and I see my name versus Amber. And I was like, is that right? And they're like, yeah, you're debuting tonight. So I
Wow.
was going to shit myself.
My God. So you didn't know up until that moment?
Yeah, I didn't know that it was happening because I did like little things here and there in the ring as a ballet. And I was like doing matches at training, but they just kind of threw me out there and said, good luck, kid.
Oh my gosh. It's like if you wouldn't have looked at that board, like when were they gonna tell you?
Right. I'm like there in my ballet outfit, just hanging around. They're like, hey, your match is up. Oh, that would have been a story.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. And then just what were like some of your thoughts like before you debuted? Like were you nervous? Was it what were your feelings?
I was very nervous. I was honestly like, I have stage fright, which is kind of funny, right? I'm a performer. But yeah, I had stage fright. So going out there, like going through the curtain, I just remember like being so nervous and like so scared. But I was also like gonna go out there and just be that bitch and talk my shit like I normally do. So backstage, I was very nervous. But once I hit the curtain, I just really felt like I was in my element.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then just the name like Gypsy Mac, what inspired that? Did you always kind of did you ever go by anything else? Has it always been that? And then where'd that come from?
So Gypsy Mac has always been my name. The last name Mac came from my love of Mac Miller.
Okay.
He passed away like shortly before I started wrestling, and he was one of my favorite rappers. So the name kind of came from that. And then Gypsy, I always thought it was such an interesting name. I've heard it in like a Fleetwood Mac song. And then Gypsy Rose, who, is trending right now. I heard her name too because I like true crime. And I just
Mm,
thought it was a very pretty name. And then come to find out it means like wanderer and it has all this history behind it too. So I just thought it fit me.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, how does it tie into like your personal stuff? Like you got like the fortune teller ball and stuff like that going on. Like how does that fit kind of your personal stuff and where does that tie in for you?
So I actually do like tarot readings. I'm very big into like astrology, manifestation, all of
Mm,
that stuff is something that I actually practice myself. So I felt it would be more comfortable for me to be very genuine and not feel like I'm playing sort of like a fake character.
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think like a lot of the best wrestlers like a Stone Cold or, just anybody, it's like themselves just ramped up to a million.
yeah, I
Uh,
feel like that's the best way because that's when you're the most genuine. Because you have these guys, like even on the big leagues, where they're like, okay, you're this person from Indiana and you have to like play into this part. And you can tell that they're very uncomfortable doing it because it's
mhm.
not genuinely who they are.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to take a side pivot, do some like fun questions here. Do you have any dream matches, whether it's like, WWE, legend, current, or even on the indie scene? Any dream matches for you?
I do have a few on WWE. My dream match is Rhea Ripley.
Of course. Mommy's
I
always on
love
top,
her.
right?
Yeah, I've loved her though since like the Mae Young Classic. Like I've been on this Rhea Ripley train since day one.
You've been there
So,
since the beginning.
oh yeah, that's my girl. Like I remember people are like, I don't know about Rhea Ripley. And I was like, nah, that's a star. That's a star right there. She's gonna go all the way to the top and look at her now.
Absolutely.
Another one on like the indie-ish scene is Johnny Robbie.
Hmm.
I love Johnny Robbie. I think she's great, especially she's not that like far in. Like this was like her breakout year and
Hmm.
she's been making waves for herself. She's amazing to watch in the ring. No matter who she's in the ring with, she can put on a damn good match.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then there might be some overlap here, but do you have any dream like training partners? Like you get to pick their mind for a day, kind of roll around. Anybody like that?
That's a good question. I've never honestly thought about that one. Honestly, I would really like to get in the ring with like someone like Natalia
Mm,
just because she's been around through every generation of wrestling you can possibly think of. So I think she would be a really good person to kind of pick her brain and see like where she stands on wrestling because everyone has a different type of wrestling that they like to do or a type that they like to even just train and they don't perform that in the ring. So I think she would be very interesting to pick her brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone who was literally born into it and, like you said, has been around forever. But yeah, no, that's a great answer. And then I just want to go to your that AEW match with Athena. Just what was that like? Like, how's that connection initially made? Just take us through like the process of going to that kind of stage. How's that connection initially made, and then like what was that match like getting that experience?
AEW was a very interesting experience. I got an email one day from AEW, and it's like, hey, we want you to come be an extra for this date.
Hmm.
And I was kind of shocked that I got that email. It was
Did
in
you think it
Denver,
was fake at
Colorado.
first, maybe?
Maybe, but then I like asked some people, I was like, hey, is this like for real the email? And they're like, yeah, that's the one that you'll get. So I was like, oh, okay. So, I responded. I was living in Albuquerque. I think it was in Denver or Broomfield, somewhere around there. So it's like 7 hours away. And I went and stayed with my parents in Las Vegas because that's kind of like a little bit closer to Denver than Albuquerque. So
Sure.
stayed there, woke up super early at like 5 a.m. to drive all the way to Denver. I
Wow.
remember getting ready in a gas station, like at a Love's,
Mhm.
to be there on time because I had to leave so early. That was actually kind of like crazy. I was there getting ready to maybe have like a match, maybe not. Like you don't know what you're doing until you get there.
Oh, wow. So I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know that. They just think, like, you get the assignment, you know what you're doing, so that's kinda similar to you didn't even know when you were debuting, so you
Yeah, I
actually
guess that's just
process.
how it is in the scene for me at this
Yeah,
point.
interesting. And then you
Yeah,
get
so
to it, what happens?
once you get there, you have to meet up with like the doctors and make sure everything's good in case they do want you to be in the ring. Since it was my first time, they had me take promo pictures and
Mm,
put on your gear. I think just to kind of see what everyone looks like in their gear and see who's going to
right,
match up on matches.
yeah.
And then you don't know what you're doing for a while.
Mm. So you're just
So
kinda seeing
again,
that.
yeah, like I kept walking back and forth, just kind of checking the board to see if my name was going to be on there. And my name moved twice.
Mm,
I was in a tag match originally. I don't remember with who,
yeah.
but it was a tag match. And I was like, oh, okay, easy. Tag matches, easy stuff. And
Mm,
then I walk by again and my name's off the board. So I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm not having a match. Cool.
mhm.
And then my name gets put back on the board with Athena. And I was like, that's a big match.
That's huge, yeah.
That was like, that's huge. I was like, shit,
Mhm.
I'm kind of nervous.
Right, and then being that it's the bigger stage, are the nerves more ramped up than, like, a kinda regular indie show? Is it more
Oh
heightened?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
way
imagine.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember walking through the like entrance out into the arena and I was like, holy crap, this is huge. Like there's so many seats here. Like the lights are even brighter than I imagined. The
Yeah.
entrance, the stage, like everything. It was just kind of like shocking, but I felt like I was supposed to be there.
Mm, yeah, that was gonna be my next question, like, how did it feel once you got in the ring? Did it settle a little bit for you? Or
Yeah, a little bit. I was nervous because everyone's there looking at you,
right?
what you're doing in the ring. Like you have all of the big leagues, the big names, all the other little indie guys that don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of hanging out, but everyone's watching you on this giant ring to see what you guys are going to kind of plan out and do. But once I was in there, I felt a little bit more comfortable. Athena's a sweetheart. She made me feel so like relaxed and comfortable and made sure like I was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask also, like, how much time did you get with her beforehand? Like, how was it just, just the process working with her specifically?
We had like a good little 20 minutes
Mm,
maybe before like we had to go back and get ready because the way that they run things is like super time crunch because they do all of the dark matches, right? And then they film what's live and then they film like their rampage for Friday. So it's kind of crazy and everything is like straight, like you guys are next, next, next. Like everything's done like a assembly line. It's kind of crazy.
mhm, yeah. Was there any catering? I spoke with Primal Fear about a couple of their AEW dark matches, and Gabriel really liked the catering. Did you notice any, like,
Oh yeah.
was the
the
treatment special, catering? Did you get to, like, talk to any of the personnel, AEW, like, the higher ups? Like, what was just the whole kinda environment like?
Yerp, yerp. It is I, Adrian Soriano,
Matthew Ullman, Gabriel Hatter,
and
baby.
we are All Fight, No Flight, Primal Fear. And we hope you're enjoying this Apples and Grapes podcast.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get back to the action.
Everyone was really chill. Like I had a few people watching my matches because there's like Gorilla and there's the TV and the backstage, and I had a few people watch my matches. Like Red Velvet came up to me after and told me I had a good match, and Christopher Daniels, I got to pick his brain a little bit on what he thinks I can work on from the match and stuff too. So that was really nice to be able to get feedback. It wasn't just like, hey, go out there, kid, and get your ass kicked.
Right.
We don't care. Yeah, it was kind of nice to be able to like talk to him and say like, hey, what can I work on? What can I do differently?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's an amazing opportunity just to pick anybody's brain that will, listen.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, you get some people that were like, oh yeah, it was good. Well, what did you like? And they're like, oh yeah, the finish was cool.
Yeah, you're like,
And
that doesn't help me at all.
no, I'm like, I shouldn't even have asked anything. Why did I even bother?
Right. Yeah. And then just reflecting on it now, like what did that, match mean for you personally and professionally?
It just meant, that I'm able to hang in there with people that have been to the WWE, that are a top name on ROH, that have traveled all across the world. Like it just means to me that I can take it to the next level of what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said like you felt like you belonged in there. So that's probably a good, like whether you were questioning it before or not, you're like, you felt comfortable, and that probably was like a huge confidence boost alone.
Oh yeah, most definitely, especially to be able to like go in there, have the match, everything goes good. You didn't shit the bed. Everything
Yeah.
was fine. It just kind of makes you feel like, okay, what's next? What can I do next to be able to get there again or to be able to be the one that's signed?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just aside from that moment, and that whole experience, what's like your favorite in-ring moment to date besides that one?
I have a few. One that's sticking out to me is a match that I had this last year, I think in like May or June. I had my first hardcore match,
Okay.
and that was really fun. I was kind of nervous. I found out the week before. Again, me just finding out stuff late, right?
Right. It's a theme for you.
Yeah, my friend texts me and he's like, "Hey, like you're in a hardcore match this weekend."
Mm,
Excuse me? I was like, I did not know it was a hardcore match. So I was
yeah.
kind of nervous, but it was really fun. I want more of them. I really liked it.
Mm. Was it similar to like a death match? Like, what were like was it light bulbs? Was it like,
It
what?
wasn't that bad. I went through like there was tables, well, doors, chairs, and then a staple gun.
Oh, okay, nice. So
Yeah.
good amount of action there.
Yeah, it wasn't, like super safe, like hardcore where it was just like, oh, a chair and that's it. I
Hmm.
did like, kind of get out of my element and do a lot more than I would normally do. And I ended up really enjoying myself. I think I want to do more hardcore matches in the future.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a death match.
Hmm. Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know what the difference is where it crosses from hardcore to death, but I'm sure you'd find out.
The light tubes, I think, is when
Yeah,
we start
little
to
little
kind
more
of,
blood. Yeah,
yeah.
and then just I know like a lot of independent companies, bring in like whether it's vets or legends from like WWE. Has there ever been an experience where you got some advice or just got to like we said earlier, pick the brain of somebody that's come through like one of those shows?
One of them was Mick Foley.
Yeah.
It was before I made my wrestling debut. I think it was like a couple of months before, the same company that I'd been a valet at.
Mm,
Mick Foley, they brought him in and he actually worked with my trainer. And, I just got to sit down with him and ask him what he thinks is the most important thing in wrestling. And like, if he could give me a piece of advice to take with me for the rest of my career, what would it be? And he told me promos,
mm,
which
interesting.
makes a lot of sense for Mick Foley.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I've heard almost like it's, don't feel weird about like practice in the mirror, like do it on your phone, or do you do any of that stuff? Is it like, how often do you find yourself just like practicing? You know, you're in the shower cutting a promo. Like how often are you thinking about? I'm sure you think about wrestling constantly. So I'm just
Oh
curious.
yeah. Well, with my old trainer Gino, we would do promos like all the time.
Yeah.
Every single day we would have training, we would cut at least one promo. He even used to like make us do these crazy drills where he would be like, "Okay, you're a pimp from the 80s
Mm,
and this is your opponent." And like
right,
he
like
would make
improv
us,
almost.
yeah, and I'm so grateful that he did that cuz it really brought me out of my shell cuz
Yeah.
I hate talking in front of people. Like I can do it all day through a phone or like in my mirror or like when I'm driving, but when there's like hundreds of people looking at you, it's way different.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Even like school presentations, like you get flustered and like I feel
Uh,
my next thing. Like I hated all that. It's like a trauma just thinking about it.
I would get nervous like if I was reading, I'd count the people and
Mm,
I'm like, "Okay, this is my paragraph. Let me practice it real quick so I don't mess it up."
yeah. They say like visualize people in their underwear, but I can't even think
I'm
about
like, that
that
would
anymore.
make it worse.
Yeah. I make it more awkward.
Yeah.
So we touched on it a little bit. You did suffer like a pretty major injury recently. If you just want to
Yeah.
like explain like what exactly happened there, what was the specific injury, and just like what stage of it are you at now?
So the day after Thanksgiving, I was back home in Albuquerque and I was like, "Hey, I'll drop in on Gino's class and get some ring time in." So, we show up like normal, we're doing stuff. I was trying to practice stuff that I was doing here at FSW in Vegas over there to kind of pick his brain and see what he thought.
Right.
And I was doing a move, a pump handle, and he was like, "Well, let's try a baseball slide. Like
Mm,
baseball slide through my legs, grab my arm, and we'll get into it." So I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I did it like 5, 6 times. It was fine. I kept nailing it every time. The seventh time, I got kind of tired, and I got like the little voice in my head that was like, "Hey, maybe you should like take a break. Like you're
mhm,
tired." But I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do it. Like, fuck it. Like, I've
right.
always been like this." So I do it. And right when I go through his legs, I don't know what happened, but my left leg caught his left leg and my ankle just snapped.
Oh my God. Oof.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
And I looked down and like my leg is facing the wrong way. So I kind of like freak out and I just grab it and I popped it back into place. And I
Oof.
was like, "No." I looked at my boyfriend, Dante, and I was like, "It's no." I was like, "No, it's not broken. It's fine." And one of our other training partners, Ocean, he's a paramedic. And
Mm,
he was like, "Gypsy, I want you to be very calm, but it's broken." He's like, "I don't know if it's a compound." He's like, "We're going to have to take everything off and look at it, but the sound and the way that it looked, it's definitely broken." He's like, "I don't know if it's your ankle or your foot or your leg or what, but sorry, kid." So we call the ambulance. They put me in a splint. Luckily, it wasn't a compound fracture. That would have been
yeah, that would have been a lot. What was it? So it was a broken, like what was the actual?
fibia. So, like the little bone in your leg. Basically, if you get a pencil and like twist it, that's how I
Mhm.
broke my leg.
Oh, yeah, I saw the X-ray picture. That was nasty looking, but that's pretty intense. And then just like, what are you thinking? I'm sure you're bummed out right away, but like just mentally, how are you keeping yourself not completely depressed? Like, just what's going through your mind at that point?
Or because I had a lot of stuff lined up now in the new year into like the spring. So I was of course hurt, but like I was just trying to like keep myself like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I don't need surgery.
Mm,
And they show me the x-ray and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna like need surgery. Your ligaments are also torn all in your ankle. Like you really did a number on this."
yeah.
So I was like, "Shit, okay." So they gave me some drugs, put that shit back kind of like the best way that they could and sent me
Mm,
home. And I had to call and schedule an appointment with a surgeon. And they end up telling me, yeah, I need like 7 screws and a plate in my leg and in my ankle. So I'm
mm,
going to be out like 4 to 6 months.
yeah. And then hearing that news, what are your immediate thoughts?
All right, how can I get back in 4 months?
Yeah.
That's instantly what I thought of right away is like, let me get back the quickest I can. Like if John Cena can do it, I can do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can
But
see why not.
yeah, I was pretty bummed out, especially like going into surgery and like seeing all of my friends wrap up the end of their year doing like shows and like being like, oh, I did this many shows at the end of the year, like all of this exciting stuff. And it was just pretty bummy. But luckily, I have like a really good support system, and that's been really helping me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, do you think like it motivated you more? Like, are you like, all right, this is just like a little hibernation stage. Like, how much do you think it motivated you just like for when you do come back?
Under my ass because I was kind of being a little lazy there towards like, the last couple of shows. I did, I think, like 16 weekends with like no days off between like my regular job and wrestling and training. I was very tired and I was just kind of like going through the motions a little bit and like kind of falling out of love with wrestling, honestly.
Mm,
Like it kind of sucks to say, but I think you get burnt out really quickly.
yeah, I understand that.
Getting something taken away from you without being like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore makes you realize like, no, this is what I want to do. And like, I need to be in this industry. And when I come back, I'm going to be even bigger than I was than when I left.
Yeah. No, I think that says a lot about your, passion for, the business and everything. Because I think you could have just as easily went the other way and been like, I'm not really that excited to get back into it, or maybe I'll do another match eventually. But that's good to see you use it, the opposite way. Um, but just like what process, what phase of it are you in now? Like, are you looking at any physical rehab? Like, just what are you doing now before you get ready to get back in there?
About 5 weeks out from surgery. I'm still in a boot and I still have crutches, which is a bummer,
Yeah.
especially now because I'm like at this point where I'm like, get me out of this house.
Right. Yeah.
But luckily, I'm like going to the gym a little bit more and I'm able to do like a lot of upper body stuff. I obviously can't really do legs that much,
Right.
but I go to the doctor next week. I'm hoping I'm out of crutches at least. And then I think I'm going to start physical therapy and walking.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just anything. I know you don't have any like matches or anything coming up, but like are there any promotions like you'd like to plug or just anything coming up that we can look forward to?
Be at IZW in Arizona on February 24th. I'm doing like a little meet and greet, probably talk to the fans and stuff. It'll be nice to kind of be back in that environment, even though I can't wrestle. And
Right.
I'm so grateful that they're like willing to do that for me because being on the sidelines sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet I was gonna ask like how many shows you're still going to. Like I'm sure like you said, the environment kind of would keep you motivated. Are you still like involved? Like do you go to a lot of shows as a fan even or
Shows since I injured myself. Like I was gonna go to the FSW like New Year's Eve show, but it was late and like I was just kind of like, I'm gonna be in the cold and like I'm kind
yeah.
of in pain, so maybe it's not a good idea. But I'm gonna start hitting the road with Dante soon, so I'm excited about that to go back to shows, even if I'm just sitting at the timekeepers area and just hanging out, or like sitting in the fan audience.
Yeah, just being involved. And then the I just want to go next to like just current WWE. Like, do you watch it pretty? Are you pretty active like watching it or?
Through social media, and I'll
Yeah.
watch matches that like pique my interest because I'm an NXT girl.
Mm,
That's what I watch week in week out is NXT.
okay, that's how you got. You said you were early on with Rhea, so I'm sure you loved watching her journey through there. Yeah. If you want to like plug any social medias, like where can we find you?
Instagram, which is the Gypsy Mac. I also have Twitter and Facebook, which is just Gypsy Mac. Um, I do have TikTok. I'm not very active on it, but I'm trying to be
Same.
better because I know it's like the biggest platform right now. But God, I hate editing those videos.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Absolutely. Just thanks again for being, here with us today, and I can't wait to watch your journey. Can't wait till you're able to get back in there and everything like that. So just thanks for being here.
Hopefully, I can do another one right before I debut or right after I come back or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. But yeah, thank you so much.